The story of the Whittaker family has always carried a heavy emotional weight, a mix of fascination, empathy, and an ever-growing concern for their well-being. But as months have passed, and as more people within the online community have spoken up, one question has started dominating every thread, every live stream, every discussion group dedicated to the family. Why hasn't anyone in authority stepped in to check on BJ? Not to accuse, not to punish, not to interfere with the family's privacy, but simply to ensure that someone as vulnerable as she is, someone whose needs are often discussed but rarely addressed, is receiving the proper care, support, and oversight she deserves. What began as a simple curiosity has transformed into a deeper frustration, the kind that builds when people feel like they're shouting into the void. For many supporters, the silence from officials has become harder to understand than the situation itself. BJ is not just another member of the Whittaker family. She is one of the individuals viewers worry about the most, and one of the individuals the community feels has been overlooked again and again. The question isn't, what happened? The question is, why isn't anyone making sure she's okay? And that's the question that continues driving the conversation today. The rise of public concern. BJ has always been a figure at the center of intense public interest, not because of drama or controversy, but because of her vulnerability. People see her, listen to her, watch her interact with family members, and naturally worry. Not out of judgment, but out of instinct. In comment sections, viewers often write things like, "Is BJ getting the medical care she needs? Does anyone check on her living conditions? Why do we only see her in certain videos and not others?" These aren't accusations. They are expressions of concern rooted in compassion. The Whittakers have lived in isolation for generations. Their situation is unique, complicated, and deeply human. But that uniqueness also raises questions. Questions that viewers believe should be addressed by professionals, not speculation. People understand that YouTube creators aren't social workers. People understand that fans on Facebook aren't trained evaluators. Yet, when weeks turn into months without any visible signs of outside oversight, people begin to wonder. If nobody with authority is checking in, then who is? The problem of inconsistent information. One of the biggest sources of frustration isn't the family itself, it's the information surrounding them. Different creators post different updates. Different pages present different narratives. Different community members report hearing different things from behind the scenes. And in the middle of this swirling chaos sits BJ, vulnerable, quiet, and often the one person viewers feel they never get enough clear information about. In various live streams, concerned supporters ask, "Has anyone seen BJ lately? When was the last time she was on camera? Are her medical needs being met? Is she safe?" Sometimes the answers are reassuring. Sometimes the answers contradict one another. Sometimes there are no answers at all. And it's that inconsistency, that lack of unified communication, that fuels the anxiety surrounding her situation. People aren't demanding personal details or invading her privacy. They're simply asking for reassurance. Is she okay? Is someone looking out for her? When silence meets those questions, people naturally assume the worst. The internet's sense of responsibility. There is a strange but powerful phenomenon that happens when a vulnerable family becomes known to the public. The audience begins to feel responsible for them. Viewers see BJ not as a character in a documentary, but as a real human being with real needs. They see her laugh, mumble, gesture, and move through life in her own rhythm. And in those moments, brief, simple, but deeply authentic, they feel connected to her. So when supporters feel like her well-being is uncertain, they react emotionally. Comments fill up with worry. Posts spread with urgency. People ask the same question over and over. Not because they think they know better, Not because they want to control the situation, but because they genuinely care. And now, the primary frustration is directed not at the family, but at the people who should be ensuring their safety: the local support systems, the welfare departments, the professionals supposedly responsible for monitoring vulnerable adults. People ask, shouldn't someone be doing regular check-ins? Shouldn't authorities step in if there are concerns? Why is everything left up to YouTubers and strangers online? For many supporters, it feels like the system itself has failed BJ, not through malice, but through inaction. The community's biggest question: why no official response? Months have passed. Concerns have been voiced. Videos have been circulated. Posts have been made. Yet, according to viewers, nothing resembling an official response has ever been publicly shared. No reassurance. No evaluation. No clarification. And so the speculation grows. Some viewers believe officials are quietly monitoring the situation behind the scenes. Some believe the rural location makes welfare oversight inconsistent. Some believe the authorities don't fully understand the family's unique needs. Some worry the entire situation has slipped through bureaucratic cracks. But almost everyone agrees on one point: the silence is unacceptable. If there is nothing wrong, why not say so? If everything is fine, why not reassure the public? If BJ is receiving proper care, why not confirm it in a simple, transparent statement? To many supporters, the lack of communication, not the situation itself, is what feels most concerning. The impact of multiple creators and multiple stories. Another factor deepening the confusion is the presence of multiple content creators surrounding the Whittaker family. Each creator has their own perspective, their own relationship with the family, their own style of presenting information, their own interpretation of events. This results in mixed messages, conflicting updates, unclear timelines, and confusion about who is actually responsible for what. Some creators post frequently. Some disappear for long stretches. Some claim direct knowledge. Some rely on secondhand information. And while none of them may intend harm, the effect is the same. BJ becomes lost in the middle. She becomes a subject of concern but not a recipient of clarity. A point of discussion but not a point of transparency. A vulnerable individual in a story that has become dominated by everything except her own needs. This, more than anything else, is what fuels the public's cry for justice. Not justice in a legal sense, but justice in a moral sense. Justice means attention. Justice means oversight. Justice means ensuring her needs are being met. And right now, many supporters believe she isn't receiving enough of any of those things. The emotional response of the community. The conversations aren't driven by anger. They're driven by heartbreak. People worry because BJ cannot speak for herself in the way others can. They worry because her circumstances are unique, isolated, and often misunderstood. They worry because they've grown attached, emotionally invested in her safety and comfort. When people ask why authorities haven't acted, they aren't suggesting a crime has occurred. They're asking why a vulnerable woman hasn't received more oversight, more resources, more visitation from social services, more reassurance from the people responsible for her welfare. The online community is large, vocal, and emotionally invested. And right now, their biggest fear is that BJ has been forgotten by the institutions meant to protect her. Hey everyone, before we get into the next part, I've got something special to share with you. If you're all about making your home smarter, cozier, and just a little bit more you, then you've got to check this out. We've partnered with Trekbo.com, a place built for people who love clever solutions and everyday comfort. From wellness and skincare must-haves to smart home gadgets, heated gear, and lifestyle tech, Trekbo is packed with products that make life easier, warmer, and way more fun. I've personally picked some of my favorite finds, things that actually work, look great, and make your day smoother. Whether it's something to simplify your morning routine, help you unwind after a long day, or bring a little innovation into your home, you'll find it there. So before you scroll past, take a quick look at trekbo.com. Trust me, it's full of discoveries waiting to make your everyday better. Alright, now let's get back to it, because after this video, you're definitely going to want to explore what Trekbo has in store for the Whittaker household community. As concerns about BJ continued to rise, the public began turning its attention not only toward authorities but also toward the ecosystem surrounding the Whittaker family. And in this ecosystem, a blend of well-meaning supporters, passionate commentators, and creators with varying levels of access, the information pipeline became increasingly tangled. For months, the community tried to piece together updates from scattered videos, mixed statements, and cryptic posts. And the more they tried to make sense of it all, the more they realized just how many gaps existed, gaps that should not exist when discussing the well-being of a vulnerable family member. People weren't demanding full transparency. They weren't asking for private medical records or intrusive personal details. What they wanted was simple, clear communication, consistency, and basic reassurance that BJ's needs were being met. Yet what they got instead was a chaos of conflicting narratives. The creator divide. A major turning point in the community's frustration came not from the Whittakers themselves, but from the people around them. Different creators began offering different explanations for BJ's situation. Timelines didn't match, stories didn't align, and in some cases, creators disagreed publicly. To viewers, this signaled something uncomfortable. If the people closest to the situation can't tell a consistent story, then who can? Some creators claimed they were in direct communication with the family. Others claimed they were being blocked or shut out. Some insisted everything was fine. Others implied things needed attention. Some said they had updates but couldn't share them yet. Others suggested there were things happening behind the scenes. All of this left the public in a state of constant uncertainty. The question evolved from, "Is BJ okay?" to, "Why can't anyone give a straight answer? Who is actually telling the truth? Why does every update contradict the last one?" And that confusion only amplified the urgency behind the community's biggest concern. Why haven't authorities stepped in to provide clarity? When creators clash, when updates don't align, when supporters feel misled, the natural next step should be an official welfare check, a statement, or some form of acknowledgement from professionals. Instead, nothing. The invisible barrier between BJ and the outside world. One of the most noticeable patterns throughout this saga has been BJ's absence. Not a total absence. She appears occasionally, but inconsistent enough that people question what happens off camera. In many videos, she is quiet, observant, or withdrawn. Some viewers interpret that as her personality. Others see it as potential discomfort. Without official guidance, it becomes nearly impossible to differentiate between normal behavior and neglect. And when vulnerable individuals are involved, uncertainty can feel like danger. Supporters have asked again and again, how often is BJ evaluated? Does she have access to medical care? Has a social worker visited recently? Is her well-being being monitored regularly? The lack of answers creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum, assumptions begin to swell. People start connecting dots that may or may not belong together. Emotions take the wheel. Worries become theories. Theories become narratives. And suddenly, the public is debating BJ's situation without any verifiable anchor of truth. This is precisely why official oversight is so crucial. Not to interfere, not to dictate the family's life, but to prevent confusion, panic, and misinformation from taking over. The welfare check debate. In almost every conversation about BJ, the same suggestion appears. Why doesn't someone order a welfare check? To the general public, a welfare check is a simple solution. To the system, it is more complicated. But to viewers, especially those emotionally invested in the Whittakers, the complexity does not justify the lack of action. Some argue that authorities may have visited quietly behind the scenes. Others believe the rural setting complicates things. Some say the family has historically been overlooked. And others fear the system simply isn't equipped to handle unique cases like theirs. But the one sentiment nearly everyone shares is this: if nothing is wrong, why not confirm it? Just a single statement, a simple reassurance, could ease the minds of thousands. Instead, the public is left wondering whether their concerns are valid or whether they're shouting into an empty room. The frustration grows deeper with every passing week of silence. The role of isolation. The Whittakers' isolation is both the heart of their story and the root of their vulnerability. Geography plays a role. Resources play a role. Generations of disconnect from mainstream society play a role. BJ, as someone requiring support and care, is directly impacted by this level of isolation. When families live far outside traditional systems, oversight becomes inconsistent, sometimes non-existent. And that raises questions far bigger than any single family. How many vulnerable adults fall through the cracks due to rural isolation? How many rely on the hope that someone will eventually notice if something is wrong? How often does lack of communication appear harmless until it's too late? BJ becomes a symbol of this larger national issue, even though she herself is a private individual and deserves dignity, respect, and privacy. The public's concern reflects not gossip or judgment, but a fundamental fear for her safety and comfort in a system not designed to protect people like her adequately. The burden of the online community. In many ways, the internet has taken on a role it was never meant to play. Creators show up at the house. Supporters send donations. Strangers try to analyze every video frame for meaning. Commenters look for signs of distress or well-being. People share opinions as if they're facts. This should not be happening. Not because people don't care, people care too much, if anything, but because the safety and support of a vulnerable woman should not fall into the hands of untrained strangers online. Yet right now, that is exactly what it feels like. And many people resent that responsibility. They feel helpless. They feel unheard. They feel responsible for someone they've never met. When the system is quiet, when professionals say nothing, when creators provide contradictory information, the public is left alone with their fears and assumptions. The emotional impact on supporters. The emotional roller coaster surrounding BJ has taken a toll on the community. Many supporters express guilt for not knowing the truth, anger at the lack of communication, fear that something might be wrong, empathy for the family's struggles, worry that BJ is being overlooked, frustration that creators don't coordinate, exhaustion from constant speculation. These emotions are real. These emotions are powerful, and these emotions drive the ongoing demand for clarity, oversight, and justice. Not justice in the legal sense, but justice in the moral, humanitarian sense. Justice meaning BJ is seen, BJ is supported, BJ is evaluated regularly, BJ is not forgotten. To the online community, that is justice. The urgency of now. The longer silence continues, the louder the questions become. The longer confusion spreads, the deeper the concern becomes. The longer creators conflict, the more divided the community becomes. At the center of all of it is BJ, a woman who did not choose fame, did not choose scrutiny, did not choose this online debate. She deserves clarity, stability, and support. And that starts not with creators, not with viewers, but with officials acknowledging the public's concerns. If everything is fine, say so. If help is being provided, explain it. If oversight is happening behind the scenes, reassure the community. Because right now, the unanswered questions are doing more damage than the situation itself. What do you think? Should authorities step in with oversight or reassurance? Why do you believe they've remained silent for so long? Comment below, your voice matters. As the online community continued its search for clarity, a new layer of frustration emerged, a realization that the problem wasn't just the silence of authorities or the confusion among creators. The deeper issue was structural, systemic, woven into the cracks of social services across rural America. BJ's situation became a lens through which thousands of people suddenly saw a larger truth. Vulnerable adults who live in isolated, impoverished areas often go unseen, unheard, and unprotected, not because no one cares, but because no one is assigned to care. And once viewers recognized this broader pattern, their concern shifted from "what's happening to BJ?" to "how many BJs are out there with no oversight at all?" For supporters, this wasn't about exploiting tragedy, it was about confronting a truth that many had never realized existed. The Whittaker family's story wasn't just compelling. It was alarming. It was revealing. It was a wake-up call. And BJ was at the heart of that realization. The broken bridge between rural life and social care. Rural communities often operate on assumptions. That family is being taken care of. Someone checks in on them. Authorities will step in if needed. People know each other out here, someone's watching. But reality works differently. In many regions, especially remote mountain communities, support systems are stretched so thin that oversight becomes sporadic at best. Caseworkers carry massive caseloads. Travel times are long. Appointments get pushed. Home visits get delayed. Some families go years without official contact. This is the environment in which BJ exists, not by choice, but by geography and circumstance. And for the online community, the realization that the system may not be consistently monitoring her well-being became one of the most painful points of the entire discussion. Many viewers argued, BJ deserves regular wellness checks. She deserves a caseworker who understands her needs. She deserves resources, support, and medical care. She deserves more than being a footnote in a broken system. The truth is, BJ's situation isn't unique. What makes it visible is the camera. What makes it urgent is the public watching. But urgently or not, the silence persists. Creators clashing, and the damage it causes. In any story involving vulnerable people, responsible handling of information is essential. But as tensions grew, creators began falling into patterns that unintentionally fueled confusion. Some creators took a protective stance. Everything's fine, stop worrying. Others took a defensive stance. I'm doing the best I can, don't blame me. Others took a cryptic stance. I know things, but I can't say anything yet. But none of these approaches gave the public what they needed most: clear, consistent, unified communication. Instead, they created divided audiences, speculation spirals, resentment between creators, mixed signals, conflicting narratives, and ultimately, less focus on BJ and more focus on drama. Supporters grew exhausted, not from caring, but from trying to untangle the truth. Creators, intentionally or not, became secondary characters in a story that was never supposed to be about them. And every time creators clashed publicly, the same sad consequence followed. BJ's needs were overshadowed by arguments between people who claimed to be helping her. The very thing supporters wanted to prevent became the new normal. The question of responsibility. Whose job is it to ensure BJ's well-being? The family? The creators who document them? The supporters watching online? Or the authorities who have stayed silent for months? This is where the debate intensifies. Many argue that creators, having built careers around documenting the Whittakers, carry a moral responsibility to advocate for BJ's support when concerns arise. Others argue that creators do not owe the public updates on private medical matters. Still others argue that YouTube should never have become the primary source of information in the first place. Meanwhile, supporters believe the lack of clarity means someone must step in. Somebody needs to speak up for BJ. Somebody needs to make sure she's taken care of. Somebody needs to check on her consistently, not occasionally. But the somebody remains unanswered. And it's that unanswered responsibility that keeps supporters up at night. To many, it feels like BJ is caught in the crossfire between fractured communication and institutional neglect, not by intentional harm, but by the absence of proactive care. The real meaning of justice for BJ. For some, justice might sound dramatic. But supporters use the term differently. They're not demanding prosecution or punishment. They're not accusing anyone of crimes. To them, justice means BJ is seen. BJ is evaluated regularly. BJ is given resources. BJ is not overlooked. BJ's well-being is treated seriously. BJ is not forgotten by the very system built to protect vulnerable adults. Justice is care, not conflict. Justice is support, not scandal. Justice is visibility, not virality. People want to see. Social workers stepping in with routine check-ins. Medical professionals ensuring her health needs are met. Support programs addressing the family's unique situation. Clearer communication from any official body involved. This isn't about punishing anyone in the family. It's about protecting the one person who needs it most. The emotional burden on the public. As creators argued and authorities remained silent, something unusual happened. The fans became the emotional caretakers. People who had never met BJ felt deeply responsible for her safety because they saw her more than anyone else seemed to. They saw her expressions, her movements, her silence, her routines. In their minds, they became guardians at a distance. And with that strange responsibility came a wave of emotions. Fear, what if something's wrong and nobody is checking? Guilt, am I overreacting? Or am I right to worry? Confusion, why can't creators agree on anything? Anger, why are authorities ignoring public concern? Exhaustion, I want to help, but I feel helpless. Empathy, she deserves someone to speak up for her. This emotional burden is unreasonable. The public should not be the ones carrying it. But due to the silence of institutions, they do. And their voices grow louder with each day. The unanswered questions that will not go away. Despite hours of footage uploaded over the past year, despite endless discussions in live streams and comment sections, despite creators posting updates and supporters sharing concerns, the essential questions remain. Is BJ receiving regular medical care? Is she being seen by professionals? When was the last official welfare check? Are her needs being monitored consistently? Why hasn't any authority made a public statement? These questions don't go away. They don't fade with time. They don't resolve themselves. They grow larger, heavier, more urgent. Every day without answers creates a deeper sense of unease. Supporters aren't asking for drama, they're asking for dignity, for reassurance, for accountability, for humanity, for the simple confirmation that BJ is safe, supported, and seen. Until that happens, the call for justice will only grow louder. What's your take on all this? Do creators share responsibility for clarity? Should authorities be more transparent? Why do you think the system hasn't taken more action to support BJ? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let your voice be heard. As the story of the Whittaker family continues to unfold, one truth has become impossible to ignore. The public's concern for BJ is not fading. It's strengthening. It's evolving. And it's forcing thousands of people to re-examine the meaning of justice, accountability, and compassion through the lens of one vulnerable woman's life. For many supporters, this journey began with questions about videos, creators, and updates. But somewhere along the way, the focus shifted. The community stopped arguing about personalities and content creators and turned its attention towards something far more important. What does BJ need? Who is responsible for ensuring she receives it? And what does long-term support actually look like for someone in her position? These questions now stand at the center of every discussion. Not for drama, not for clicks, not for speculation, but for humanity. A system that needs to see her. At the heart of the public's frustration lies a simple belief: someone like BJ should not be invisible to the system. She should not rely on the randomness of online creators to bring attention to her needs. She should not depend on social media commenters to ask for welfare checks or support programs. She deserves a proactive network, not a reactive one. She deserves consistency, not intermittent concern. She deserves structure, not speculation. The community has made it clear. BJ should be seen by trained professionals, not just by viewers on YouTube. Regular wellness checks, routine evaluations, accessible medical care, mental health support if needed, adaptive services designed for her lifestyle and environment. None of these are unreasonable demands. They're basic rights. And the failure of authorities to publicly address these concerns has made supporters question the entire foundation of rural welfare systems. If someone as publicly visible as BJ can go months without official clarity, what happens to thousands of people who don't have an audience? Who don't have creators documenting their lives? Who don't have voices advocating for them in comment sections? BJ's situation exposes a nationwide issue, one that spans far beyond the Whittaker family. The role of family, protection, love, and limitations. Supporters often express a deep respect for the Whittaker family's loyalty to one another. Despite decades of hardship, isolation, and scrutiny, they remain tightly bonded, perhaps more than most families could ever understand. But love, no matter how strong, has limits. The emotional bond of family does not replace medical training, psychological support, structured care, disability services, long-term planning. And this is where many viewers feel the weight of concern. They see a family doing the best they can under unusual circumstances. They see siblings caring for one another without resentment. They see genuine affection, protection, and connection. But they also see where professional help could make a meaningful difference. For BJ, justice does not mean removing her from her family or forcing change upon them. Justice means supplementing what her family already gives her with the additional support the system is supposed to provide. It's not one or the other. It's both. Family support and institutional support. The combination of the two is what creates safety, stability, and long-term well-being. The role of creators. Responsibility without recklessness. Creators have become a major force in the Whittaker narrative, whether they intended to or not. Some have documented the family respectfully. Others have contributed to confusion. Others unintentionally escalated concerns through emotional live streams or incomplete information. But as the community has matured, supporters now expect creators to handle the Whittaker story with great care. That means avoiding speculation, presenting information responsibly, not implying harm without evidence, respecting BJ's dignity and privacy, prioritizing the family's well-being over content, and most importantly, not overshadowing BJ's needs with creator drama. Many viewers believe creators should serve as bridges, not barriers, between the Whittakers and the outside world. They can advocate, inform, and uplift without making themselves the center of the story. BJ's journey deserves quiet strength, not noisy conflict. Steadiness, not sensationalism. Creators who recognize this are the ones supporters trust most. The community's role: compassion over judgment. The online community surrounding the Whittakers has become vast, diverse, and passionately protective. But with that passion comes responsibility. Supporters are learning that compassion must outweigh assumption. Empathy must override outrage. Understanding must replace accusation. BJ's life is not a spectacle. Her challenges are not entertainment. Her vulnerability is not a storyline. And while the public has every right to demand oversight, they must also remember that compassion means seeing BJ as a person, not a symbol. The best thing supporters can offer is patience, understanding, respect, gentle advocacy, and a united message focused on her well-being. When emotion rises too high, judgment can overshadow justice. To truly support BJ, the community must remain grounded. A call for official oversight, without overreach. Supporters are not asking for drastic intervention. They're not asking for forced actions, removals, or legal measures. They're not asking for public exposure of private records. All they want is reassurance. A statement, a visit, a confirmation of care, a sign that someone in authority acknowledges BJ's needs. This is not heavy-handed intervention. This is the bare minimum. In cases involving vulnerable adults, routine wellness checks are standard in many states. When neglect is suspected, even mistakenly, authorities typically respond quickly. The fact that supporters have heard nothing is what alarms them. Silence breeds fear. Fear becomes frustration. Frustration turns into public pressure. And now, that pressure is louder than ever. What justice for BJ should look like. Here is what supporters believe justice really means, stripped of emotion, drama, and speculation. 1. Regular professional check-ins. BJ deserves consistent interaction with trained specialists who can assess her well-being without bias or conflict. 2. Access to medical care. Regular health evaluations should be standard, not occasional. 3. A clear support plan. Someone should be guiding her long-term needs, not just reacting to short-term concerns. 4. Collaboration with the family. Support should work with the Whittakers, not against them. 5. Transparency from officials. A simple statement confirming oversight exists would drastically reduce public anxiety. 6. Respect from creators and viewers. Her dignity should always come first. 7. Stability. No more confusion. No more mixed messages. No more unanswered questions. Stability is justice. Safety is justice. Support is justice. This is what the community has been fighting for, not scandal, not attention, not drama. Just peace of mind for a woman who deserves far more support than she has ever received. The cost of continued silence. If nothing changes, the public fear will continue to grow. Creators will clash. Viewers will speculate. Rumors will spread. And the emotional burden will deepen. But the person who suffers most in that scenario is not the creators, not the viewers, not the commentators. It is BJ. Silence is not neutrality. Silence creates instability. The longer officials remain silent, the more the public becomes the watchdog, a role they were never meant to fill. BJ deserves better, and the system is capable of better if someone steps forward. The future, hope through action. Despite everything, the story does not have to remain bleak. There is still a path forward. A path defined by cooperation, clarity, and compassion. It begins with Creators stepping back from conflict. The community uniting around BJ's well-being. The family receiving support that respects their autonomy. And authorities recognizing the need for reassurance. BJ's story is not over, and it should not be defined by confusion or silence. It should be defined by the strength of a community that refused to look away. The world has seen her. The world cares for her. And the world is waiting for someone in authority to do the same. What changes do you believe would best support BJ moving forward? Do you think authorities should play a larger role, or should the community push harder for oversight? Comment below. Your voice is part of this conversation. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.